Y'all can do better than that, BET. Make some noise in here one time.
The energy at the 2025 BET Awards was electric. Celebrities lined the front row, cameras flashed like fireworks, and the world watched. Live. Then Kevin Hart walked on stage. The laughter hadn't even started because the tension was that thick. All eyes were glued to him. And then he said it. You know what I love about Meghan Markle? She's like a Pinterest board with legs and a full-time publicist. Boom. The room erupted. People laughed, gasped, even looked around like, did he really just say that? But he wasn't done. And let's be honest, Kevin added, she's not here tonight. Not because she didn't want to be, but because Bet knows a PR campaign when they smell one. Gasps turned into whispers. Phones lit up. Within 60 seconds, Meghan's name was trending for all the wrong reasons. But why did it hit so hard? What made this moment so different? Stick around, because what you're about to hear isn't just about a joke. It's about a reputation unraveling in real time. What most people didn't know? Meghan Markle actually asked to attend the BET Awards. Sources close to the planning committee confirmed. Her team sent in a formal request weeks ahead of time. They pitched her as an ally to Black storytelling and a symbol of modern empowerment. But the answer? A sharp and immediate number. BET executives didn't even put her name through to the final round of discussion. Why? Because, according to an insider, she would have shifted the entire focus. It's about cultural authenticity, not brand optics brutal. This wasn't a tabloid rumor. This came from the room where it happened. And for someone who's built her identity on being invited to powerful rooms, this rejection hit hard, and it wasn't private. Kevin's joke made sure of that. But that wasn't even the worst part. Let's rewind. Meghan had just taken a massive hit from her Netflix docuseries with Love Meghan. On paper, it was supposed to be her big win. A multi-million-dollar deal, global platform, total narrative control. Instead, what viewers got was odd. Stylized teacups, mason jars tied with ribbon, and real conversations that felt like rehearsal bloopers. Critics slammed it as a soft-focus fever dream. One headline read, Meghan Markle's $100 million Pinterest ad. Yikes. Viewer engagement dropped like a rock after episode 1. Even fans were asking, is this supposed to be a documentary or an Etsy commercial? It became clear the brand was faltering. And then, Kevin Hart stepped on stage and turned that quiet collapse into a public spectacle. Behind the scenes at BET, the fallout was instant. Multiple sources claim Meghan was furious, not just at the joke, but at the fact that it aired live, unfiltered, uncontrolled. There was no PR spin, no royal sob story, no rescue op. And Meghan, she's not used to being out of control. In the past, she's managed to steer headlines with a well-timed interview or charity photo op. But this time, the narrative moved without her. Her team tried. They issued whispers of scheduling conflicts and private obligations. But everyone knew the truth. She wasn't just not there. She was shut out, and then roasted for it in front of millions. For years, Hollywood had embraced Meghan with open arms. She was the actress turned royal turned activist, ticking every box. But now, something's shifted. Events where she was once front row center now have no space available. Executives are backing out of meetings. Producers are ghosting her team. Even her podcast deal with Spotify vanished with a whisper. No final episode, no farewell. And Netflix, insiders say they're reconsidering future collaborations. In a town where relevance is currency, Meghan's balance is getting dangerously low. Then came the tweet. Comedian Katherine Ryan didn't name names, but the timing was impossible to ignore. Just hours after the BET roast, she wrote, "Real stars don't need sympathy scripts and HD tears." The internet exploded. Everyone knew she was referring to Meghan. It was another public jab, subtle but deadly. And Meghan? She stayed silent. But in this game, silence speaks louder than sound bites. And that silence is starting to echo across the industry. Here's the real issue. And it's deeper than a bad documentary or a missed invite. People have stopped seeing Meghan as a person. She's become a product. Every appearance feels timed. Every quote sounds rehearsed. Every post looks like a brand pitch. And when a brand loses trust, it loses everything. The very traits that once made Meghan magnetic, her candor, her vulnerability, now feel manufactured, filtered, hollow. And as one Hollywood exec bluntly put it, when the audience senses they're being sold a story, they stop buying the ending. Insiders say Meghan's now in panic mode. In just the last 6 months, she's pitched a luxury wellness brand, a boutique wine line, a high-end hotel concept, a podcast reboot, and a new memoir. But nothing has stuck. Not because the ideas are bad, but because no one knows what she stands for anymore. Is she a humanitarian, a Hollywood mogul, a mother, a princess? The constant image shifts are wearing people down. One former PR consultant said it best: reinvention only works if there's a core identity beneath it. Meghan's still chasing hers. The scariest part for Meghan? It's not the criticism, it's the silence. Former supporters, now quiet. Fashion deals, slipping away. Even celebrity allies are choosing neutrality over association. And that's what makes the BET moment so symbolic. It wasn't a punchline, it was a pivot point. The industry that once welcomed her is now politely showing her the door. Not with scandal, not with drama, but with indifference. And in Hollywood, that's the loudest rejection of all. Meghan Markle once commanded attention with every move, every photo, every word. Now, she's trying to get through the door. And the door is closed. Bet didn't just say no, they made a statement. Authenticity matters more than aesthetics. Meghan's not controversial, she's just not connecting. For years, she's relied on sympathy narratives, carefully arranged interviews, and branded elegance. But the public isn't buying the packaging anymore. They want the real thing. And if Meghan can't show that, if she can't strip away the Pinterest-perfect veil and finally reveal a true, unfiltered identity, then the story ends not with a crown, not with a comeback, but with an empty seat at the table. The $100 million daydream that backfired Let's Talk numbers. With Love, Meghan wasn't just a creative failure, it was a financial disappointment of royal proportions. Netflix poured in a reported $100 million for the project, banking on Meghan's global fame to drive viewership. But internal analytics later revealed a sharp drop-off after the first episode. Viewer retention plummeted, some as low as 17% completion. That's catastrophic for a platform that thrives on binge-watching. And the reviews? Rotten Tomatoes didn't even bother with a critic's score at first. It was that unreviewed. Meanwhile, audience comments called the series glossy nothingness, disconnected, and like watching a Hallmark ad on loop. Even fans began to admit what they once wouldn't say out loud. The show didn't feel real. For Meghan, who has always insisted her power is in her voice, this was devastating. Because when your voice falls flat on the biggest stage, the silence afterward is deafening. Meghan's career has been powered by emotional appeal, stories of hardship, of exclusion, of being misunderstood. And for a while, it worked. The Oprah interview pulled in 17 million US viewers. Headlines were sympathetic, social media lit up with support. But now, there's a phenomenon taking hold: sympathy fatigue. It happens when the public feels like they've heard the same emotional pitch too many times. And each time, it's followed by a press tour, a product launch, or a documentary deal. A well-timed tear, a softly lit quote about healing, a new brand collab, lather, rinse, repeat. Even some of Meghan's allies are starting to feel uneasy. One source close to a former media partner said, "It's always vulnerability followed by monetization. People are noticing the pattern. And once the audience catches on to the formula, the magic disappears." Behind closed doors, Meghan's inner circle is reportedly shrinking. One by one, longtime advisors and consultants have walked away. PR firms who once vied to work with her are quiet quitting, according to industry whispers. Even Sunshine Sachs, the powerhouse firm that once helped guide her public image post-royalty, has taken a step back. Sources close to the firm suggest they were exhausted from managing the fallout of failed launches and conflicting messages. A former strategist anonymously told Variety, "There was no alignment. Meghan wanted to be Princess Diana, Oprah, and Gwyneth Paltrow all at once. And that confusion, who she's trying to be, has now spilled into the public's perception. One day she's posting inspirational quotes. The next, she's teasing a wine line. Then a TED Talk, then an Earth Day garden picture. No one knows what she stands for anymore. And worse, No one's asking. For years, Meghan was a front-row staple at fashion weeks. Designers clamored to dress her. Her outfits would spark global trends. Not anymore. In the 2025 Paris and Milan fashion weeks, Meghan was notably absent, not just from the front rows, but from designer conversations altogether. Even brands that once praised her, Givenchy, Burberry, have now quietly shifted their focus to rising stars and authentic cultural voices. Why the switch? Fashion thrives on narrative, and Meghan's once powerful story now feels manufactured. One editor from Elle UK confided, "There's nothing fresh there anymore. You can't wear vulnerability like couture." That absence isn't just symbolic, it's revenue loss. Meghan's once formidable influence on fashion commerce has fizzled, with measurable drops in affiliate sales and engagement after her major public appearances. The shine is gone, and in the fashion world, when you lose your shine, you disappear. It all circles back to one question: who is Meghan Markle really? Is she an activist, a duchess, a wellness entrepreneur, a spiritual thought leader? Or is she simply someone who's been trying too hard to be everything at once? The audience wants truth, not a perfect composite of trending hashtags. And the BET moment revealed something deeper, something even her PR team couldn't contain. People weren't laughing because of the joke. They were laughing because it finally said what they'd been thinking. The performance isn't working anymore. And Kevin Hart, in 5 sharp sentences, cut through the entire illusion. That's why it went viral. That's why it stung. That's why the silence afterward was so loud. Insiders say Meghan is preparing one final pivot, a complete overhaul. Rumors include a return to acting with a scripted drama about motherhood, a memoir sequel that tells all from the inside, a startup focusing on eco-conscious motherhood products. But here's the problem. You can't pivot if no one is watching. And at this point, the public has seen too many costume changes to care about the next one. In Hollywood, the comeback arc is sacred. But it only works when it comes from truth, from vulnerability, and most of all, from stillness. Meghan has never stood still. And maybe that's why people never got the chance to connect with who she really is. Because when you're always performing for the next move, the audience eventually walks away. The BET Awards rejection wasn't just symbolic, it was surgical. A clear signal that for some spaces, especially those rooted in authenticity, Meghan no longer fits. Not because she's controversial, but because she's curated. And in an era where audiences crave transparency, curated just doesn't cut it anymore. She built a platform on being different, but now that difference feels like distance. And with every failed launch, every ghost-written quote, and every misfired podcast drop, the spotlight dims, until all that's left is an empty chair in a room that once clapped for her. This isn't about race, or royalty, or even reputation. It's about relevance. Meghan believed she could rewrite the rules, build an empire on empathy, reshape royalty, become Hollywood's conscience. But somewhere along the way, the brand swallowed the person. And now, as her voice echoes in mostly empty rooms, the question isn't what's next. The question is, can she still be real without the ribbon and spotlight? Because if she can't, this story won't end in a crown or a comeback. It'll end in quiet. And in Hollywood, silence is the final curtain.